So I've been gifted the thrilling topic of tree maintenance. How boring. So who wants to talk about maintenance? No one wants to talk about maintenance. Who wants to maintain anything? No one. Car maintenance, boring. Teeth maintenance, boring. House maintenance, boring. But before we start talking about my incredibly boring subject, can we just have a show of hands for people? Geez, I need my glasses. Okay, who has land or manages land around here? Lots of people. Who has planted and maintained some trees? Lots of people. And who has planted and maintained lots of rainforest trees to canopy? You there? Okay, well, we're definitely preaching to the converted here, so I'm hoping we can acknowledge all the skill and there's people here are older than me who've been maintaining trees for much longer, so there's a huge amount of experience in this community, and I'm hoping with this project and all the projects around here that we can use some of this skill in planting and looking after these trees and maintaining this project. The last question, who will not use glyphosate on their land to maintain planting? Okay. So we have a scenario 1 where I go out and plant 1,000 trees, and then I walk into this pub and I say, hey, I've just planted 1,000 trees. Is that too loud? And everyone goes, oh wow, that's so cool. You are so cool. And then what happens? The clouds part and the sun shines down on me, and the angels start coming around, and I'm lifted up into an environmental heaven. That's what happens when you plant trees, that are so awesome. And what happens when I go out and I come back and I say, hey, I've just maintained 1,000 trees. I've just been out in the hot sun, I'm sweating, I've got a backpack of 15 litres on my back, I've been covered in sweat, I'm covered in farmers' friends, ragweed, Soteria, I'm a complete mess, and everyone goes, oh yuck, how revolting, I don't want to know this guy. So, worse, there's a community tree planting. Oh, hold on, okay, next slide. There's a community tree planting. That was just a beautiful picture to start, by the way. That's our goal, where we're trying to get to. So there's a community tree planting, of which there are many, and they're fantastic, and we all have a great time, and look how happy those people are. They're planting trees, they feel like they're doing a great job, and that's wonderful. And 50 people turn up. Look how many people have come to this event, it's fantastic. And then, 6 months later, we're going to have a tree maintenance day. And guess what? Only 5 people turn up. And they're the 5 that turned up last time. So, there's something wrong here. So, next question, next thing. So tree planting is easy. Even kids can do it. Primary school kids can do it. It's a skill. It takes, you can kill trees, but it's not that hard to learn. Nearly everybody can do it. It takes you 5-10 minutes to learn and you can do it. But, next slide please. Maintenance is hard. Maintenance is hot. Maintenance is difficult. Maintenance takes skill. It takes knowledge. You've got to have an ecological knowledge of what's going on in the landscape. You've got to have a great ID skills. You've got to have an understanding of what's going on in that landscape. You've got to be able to kill weeds and not kill plants that you're trying to grow. That's the important thing. And so I would like to change things around. That I would walk into the pub after saying I've maintained 1,000 trees, and people go, wow, that's fantastic! What a guy! Here, have a beer, instead of yuck, how revolting. So the goal of this project isn't to plant 40, 60, 80,000 trees. It is to raise tree planting maintenance to the higher levels that it should be. So I just want to remind ourselves of where we're going. So this is a tree planting. we planted thousands of trees, and then the next shot, and then the trees are growing, the trees are being maintained, there is a canopy, there is no more maintenance needed in this planting anymore. You do not have to do anything. Maybe once a year, maybe every 5 years, you have to go in and get some privet or something, but basically it's all done. So let's just toggle back and forth a little bit. Trees planted, rainforest. Trees planted, rainforest. That's what we're trying to do. So I just want to, when you're maintaining your trees, you're thinking of this. This is the answer. This is what you're trying to do. And this is why you're spending your hours and hours suffering to get to this goal.
Where is that?
That's at the Jeff Cott's in Brooklyn, Fern Lane. I've planted, I don't know, 150,000 trees there over, I don't know, 20 or 30 years or something. So there's a lot of experience here, and so people would know I've been doing this for like 40 years or something, and I have seen thousands of trees die from lack of maintenance. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of money wasted because the trees weren't looked after. Everybody came to the planting, people got paid to plant, whatever it was, and then nothing happened. So there's numerous ways to kill trees. The most obvious is do nothing, watch the trees die. But there are other ways, like don't maintain the fences, let the cows in, watch the trees die. There is spray drift, so people who aren't skilled, don't know what they're doing, don't spray in the right time of year, in the right wind, in the right whatever, and have killed trees, mostly sensitive trees like sooty oaks and hoop pines, but it does happen. And more commonly, wallabies. So people know that wallabies eat trees, especially swamp wallabies, more than redneck wallabies. I've got redneck wallabies, they barely touch my trees, and most people have one swamp wallaby can eat hundreds of trees. So wallabies are a major issue, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But the most important thing is that I've seen hundreds of thousands of trees live due to skilled and dedicated and determined people maintaining their trees, whether they're a landowner or a contractor or a bush regenerator or whatever, volunteers, people on MOs, woofers. If some people know what they're doing, they can maintain their trees, and we end up with that, which is what we all want. And so the goal of this project and all the other projects is to make sure that maintenance is done. And so I just wanted to go through a few of the points that will improve your likelihood of getting those trees to canopy. The first one being species choice. Well, in this project, you don't get a species choice. We choose the species for you. But if you did, you would know that you have to, it's a site-specific thing. So you've got a lot of frost here, you've got a lot of floods here, you can have dry ridges, you can have wet bits, you can have dry bits. And so we've been doing this for a long time. There's quite a few people out there who know their species and they can make the mix up. So it's not just all pioneers, like some people think, oh, we'll just plant all pioneers and then all the natural regen will come in. Doesn't happen very often unless you live really close to the forest. You really have to plant pioneers, secondaries and matures, add up the appropriate percentages in order to get that correct mix that gives you a canopy quickly, but not too quickly that you end up with just a plantation. You've got to have uneven growth rates to get that rainforest multi-layered level effect. That's important. So species choice, but for this one we're choosing for you, Ivy and Lou and I, mostly I think. But if you're particularly interested, we'll listen to your ideas. Yeah.
I did get a question before about can we access the plant list that we came up with our community advisory group, and yes, the answer is. So if we've got your email address, we might just do a mail out.
So spacing, Lou mentioned spacing there. So spacing's critical. And if you were, so we normally use about 1.8 metre spacings these days after, I don't know, 20, 30 years. We've run a whole lot of trials, and it's a compromise between the initial cost and the maintenance, and we came up with 1.8 being sort of about the optimum in terms of cost and maintenance. But in this project, we want to do other things like stop water, and the maintenance budget is low, so we're going to put it in a lot closer. So just to give you an idea, 1 metre spacings is 10,000 trees a hectare, 2 metre spacings is 2,500 trees a hectare, so it's 4 times more than even though you're going from 2 to 1, you're going 4 times more trees. So it's a lot of trees at 1 metre spacings. 1.5 is about 4,500 trees, half the amount of trees. So it's obviously, if you plant closer, you're going to get a canopy quicker, and your maintenance is going to be reduced dramatically very quickly, after 2 years, maybe 3 years max. And mostly it's 3 to 4 to 5 years at 1.8. If you've got a sclerophyll planting, then you can plant wider, 2 metres plus. That's what we normally do. So mulch, okay, next slide please. So mulch is interesting. We always used to use mulch, everybody used mulch. We use bales of straw because you can move them around, it's the most efficient. Chip is too expensive to physically pay people to move around, so bales are much more efficient. We use about 1/8 to 1/10, something for the tight asses, sometimes 1/12. And mulch obviously works in many ways, you all know, but the main one being weed suppression. And so the weeds around the base of the tree are the most critical in terms of maintenance, whether you're spraying or you're hand weeding or you're brush cutting, then you need to have the weeds free from around the base of the tree. And mulch gives you less maintenance for longer. So lasts, depending on how good the mulch is and how long wet it is, 1 to 2 years of good protection around the base of the tree. If you mulch right up to the stem of the tree, and whenever we do community plantings or we're training new staff, we're always telling them to mulch right up to the stem of the tree. Most people want to pull it away because they've all heard that, you know, it can rot the tree. No, the mulch is very coarse and you can mould. That's where the worst problem is, right up to the thing. So all you community people, I'm sure you know all about this. You mulch right up to the stem of the tree. Important. But in the modern world, which is the next slide, spading has taken over. So large-scale plantings, which are done in eucalypts and pines and stuff away from here, have now come here. And so the larger plantings that we're now doing, which are like 30, 40, 50, 60,000 trees, they go in like 2 or 3 weeks. And they do it with this spade, no augers, nothing, they just spade it in. The trees are on those little pouch things, and they bung them in and do this little twirly thing, and off they go to the next. So the next slide is, this is a planted rainforest tree in a red soil paddock, and this tree of 60,000 doesn't get any mulch, doesn't get any water, doesn't get any fertiliser. So they're going in very cheaply, and the maintenance is quite high, as you can imagine. But they are establishing rainforest this way, but, you know, it means that, okay, no water, that's fine, it rains a lot. If you plant at the right time, it rains. No mulch, so the weeds are going to grow around there, so you've got to maintain. It's quite difficult. Some people use like Verdict, which is this chemical that kills the grass and not the tree. So that's a thing that they use now. But fertiliser is a problem. So if you throw fertiliser on that, you're just going to get more weed growth. Yes, the tree will grow, but you'll encourage more weeds around the tree. So no fertiliser. So the fertiliser might come later. So in this project, we're mulching. Are we fertilising? We didn't fertilise in the last one. Some are, some not. So trees will grow faster with fertiliser. I think, I've seen, we've done trials. Other people think it's not necessary. Next thing is, so we go back to the very beginning, the second slide. That one. So that one is the tree guards. for wallabies that are 800 to 900, you can cut them as high as you want, 800, 900 high, 2 stakes, they're like $3 for the guard and $1 each for the stake, that's like $5. Plus you've got to pay someone to put it in, that's like another $5. It's like very expensive, doubles the cost of the tree. So we'll go back to the other ones. This one is more for maintenance. So there's actually a mat under there, and then 1 stake, and then this core flute. And that means that no weeds, ideally 99% of the time, no weeds grow inside the guard, so they can just spray or brush cut. And some people who won't use Roundup will use this technique because they can brush cut and not injure the tree. But for this situation, they're actually spraying around the tree, but they can do that very quickly with a very little cost. So the next one is, this planting here is actually a flood planting with guards for wallabies, even though, I don't know, they're not high enough for me. The wallabies eat over the top of the ones, but they reckon that they don't have any problems, so it's working for them. But the guards are put on so that the stakes are on the upstream side, and when the floods come, which they do, the guards collapse, squash the tree a little bit, but the water goes past so they don't lose the guards. And there's nothing worse than seeing hundreds and thousands of guards down the creek. Okay, so that's fertiliser, mulch and guards. Anyway, the most important thing, of course, is weed control, grass control. So this is a Macaranga, a year old, pathetic. That is Soteria, over your head, no one's maintained it. Well, they thought they were. There was a whole team of people getting paid a large amount of money to do this planting and maintain it, and it's just hopeless. And they haven't maintained, they haven't got the idea that grass not only takes light away from the tree, it takes nutrients away from the tree, it takes water away from the tree, but the most important thing is that the fungi-bacteria ratio in the soil is skewed towards grass and not towards trees. So the trees don't like the soil very much, so we keep the grass away from the tree as much as possible so that the mulch in the tree can start changing the soil chemistry and biology. And that's why we use, one of the reasons we use pioneers is because, sorry you guys over there, I'm sort of facing the other way, but the pioneers change not only a bit of microclimate at the top, give you a bit of shade, drop a bit of leaf. And what pioneers do, they also change the chemistry underneath and the bacteria fungi ratio, which is critical for tree growth. So this is not what you want. Your planting will fail if it's left to Soteria, which is the worst. Some grasses are fine. You know, I'd rather farmers' friends and ragweed to Soteria any day, even though, you know, sometimes farmers' friends and ragweed and whatever can grow really tall and woody and right next to your tree. And so sometimes grass is better, like Rhodes grass, kikuyu, buffalo grass. Buffalo grass is awesome. It doesn't run anywhere, it just sits there. You just keep it away from your trees. No maintenance virtually required. Kikuyu runs a bit, but easy to kill. Rhodes grass is fine, but Soteria, giant paspalum is a nightmare, and it needs to go. And so we must be running out of time now. So the next slide. So here's a typical site. It's been let go. It's not a red soil site. The trees aren't growing that fantastically. But it's being saved. It's being rescued. The grass is being killed. The trees are growing. They're flushing. There's enough trees there that it will form a canopy if that's looked after. In the next couple of years, the trees will form a canopy, and all those weeds and all that grass will disappear, and you can walk away. But it has been let go, and that's sometimes what you're faced with when you're a tree maintenance hero, because you've got to go into that in the middle of summer when it's hot, when it's the hottest, worst time of year. You can't do this in winter. Weeds don't grow in winter. You've got to go out in the middle of summer, on Christmas Day usually, and do this. And so that's why these people need to be elevated into the higher echelons of community service, because they're out there doing this. And so my last slide is the hero himself. There he is, Paddy in front of his absolutely, I mean, this is like a dream site. You've got a dream client with a dream property, and yes, he'll just, but you've got a great hero regenerator in Paddy who lives over the hill here, and he's been maintaining his trees, and he's proudly standing there next to a 6-month-old Acacia, which is a really slow-growing tree. It's only 6 months old. Yes, we've had the best season known to humankind, and it rained all spring, but that is still a slow-growing tree, 6 months old, and he's standing there proudly. And if there was that tree, if that planting was a complete disaster, he wouldn't be smiling. He's getting the feedback from the trees. The trees are saying, hey, this is really cool. He's getting the visuals. Look, that's growing, that's growing. Yes, let's do another pack. Let's go out in the hot sun and sweat our ass off all day. Because it's giving you the feedback, the trees are growing, and so you just keep going in year, time after time, year after year, until it forms a canopy, and it doesn't feel that bad because it's all happening. So I want you to go out there into your project, and you come back and you maintain, say, walk into the bar and say, I just maintained my trees. And everyone, cheers, buys him a beer. Okay, thank you very much.